fiscal year 2024 budget open house. So thank you all for being here with us this evening. To those who are in Zoom and watching online, thank you as well for joining us. This evening is all about hearing from residents. And so what council will be doing this evening is listening. We have a few comments to get us started from our mayor and then from our budget director, Liz Makovsky. And then at that point, we're going to turn it over to all of you. So I want to go ahead and get started this evening with our mayor, Ken Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And
and we will keep decorum, everyone. So we'll keep it down a little bit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to be here, and I want to welcome everyone to our budget open house. You know, this is a great opportunity for us to come together and listen and learn and ultimately build a budget that reflects our shared priorities and supports inclusive progress for our city. I'd like to say thank you to our St. Pete residents who are joining us here on a Monday evening and those who are joining us virtually. Thank you for giving us your time tonight and throughout the budget process. As Madam Chair said, our goal is to hear your voices, to listen with an intent to understand and to learn from you. To our honorable council members and our talented and dedicated staff, I want to extend a special thanks to all of you for your due diligence, research and analysis, and for sharing your priorities and concerns leading up to this point. A special thanks to Administrator Rob Gerdes, Assistant City Administrator Tom Green, and Budget Director Liz Makovsky and her talented team for their consistently excellent and award-winning work in preparing the city budget. You might notice that tonight we continue the development of our fiscal year 2024 budget about a month earlier, and that is intentional to hear from the public early and better inform our decisions going into this budget process. Throughout our collaboration, the budget that we build will fund essential and critical city services and address the emerging needs in our city. I know council has these memorized, but for those who are watching, we do have 5 pillars that represent what we do in the community. The core programs and services, including housing opportunities for all, neighborhood health and safety, education and youth opportunities, environment, infrastructure and resilience, and equitable development, arts, and business opportunities. And I'd just like to show a few examples that are in this preliminary budget. On the issue of housing, this will continue to be a complex global issue. Some of you know that I attended the Global Tampa-based trade mission to London last week. And when meeting with corporate and economic leaders in London, one of their pressing issues is affordable and workforce housing. This is a global challenge. And while we are working on this immediate problem, we also are developing innovative programs to meet that long-term need. So as my administration creates an opportunity agenda for housing, we will expand the 10-year strategy established in FY20 to increase affordable and workforce multi-family housing supply, affordable single-family housing, and accessory dwelling units. Work is already underway through policies that increase down payment assistance available to first-time home buyers, home rehab funds available to existing homeowners, and developer incentives to encourage additional construction of affordable housing units. And although not directly funded in this budget, a significant portion, $34 million, of American Rescue Plan Act resources is invested in this pressing need. And as you know, that is the highest ratio of any local government in the state. And I'd like to thank you, Chair Gabbard, and the council for your leadership and your partnership on this innovative use of ARPA dollars to meet this immediate housing need. We are all committed, both the administration and the city council, to providing more housing opportunities in St. Petersburg for residents of all backgrounds and income levels, and utilizing a variety of tools to help us meet that challenge. Another priority is protecting the environment and building infrastructure that supports sustainability goals and resilience. In this early look at the budget, we've included funding for initiatives including stormwater system resiliency enhancements and new hybrid take-home cruisers for our police officers to make our fleet more sustainable. Funding is also included for seawall renovation and replacement, as well as enhancements to our water distribution and sanitary sewer collection systems. These are multi-million-dollar investments and some of the largest in the Bay Area that will help protect property and quality of life for generations. Now, as you know, the youth and education pillar is something that's very important to all of us. It represents an investment in our young people, an investment that demonstrates our belief in their success and our hope that they'll keep their talents and their families right here after graduation. So we will continue to fund our youth outreach, after school and educational programs with an emphasis on literacy and STEM concepts. To that end, I'm recommending $500,000 in new funding for education, literacy, and job readiness programs for our youth. We're also launching and implementing a new mentoring program citywide, pairing city team members with young people to support their social, emotional, and professional development. Of course, to nurture young minds, you must have the right environment for proper growth, which we address in the neighborhood health and safety pillar. This year, we'll continue $1.7 million in investment in the continuation of our Community Assistance and Life Liaison program, better known as CALL. We're also committed to transparency and public safety, and the budget will continue funding of more than $1.4 million for our body camera program. We are also recommending funding increases for sidewalks and bike, pedestrian, and traffic safety. And we will also continue to support homeless and diversion programs. Now, these are just a few of the investments we're making in our community to better serve all of our St. Pete residents. And now we're asking for the community's help to better understand what's important to our residents and what are their highest priorities. We're partners in this endeavor to build and improve a budget that works for everyone, and we look forward to hearing the voices tonight. Again, thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to hearing Ms. McCoskey's presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, we will go ahead and have Liz Makowski come up. She is our budget director, and she has a short presentation for us.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And before I begin my presentation, we do have a quick video to show. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the City of St. Petersburg's FY24 Budget Open House. My name is Liz Makowski, and I'm the city's Director of Budget and Management. Before we move into the public comment section of tonight's meeting, I'm going to give a quick presentation on the FY24 budget preliminary process. And building a budget is about priorities, and the city's annual budget development process is a balance between our numerous priorities and limited resources. As the mayor mentioned earlier in his comments, the budget process is centered on ensuring our resources are deployed along one of the mayor's 5 pillars for progress, which are in turn guided by the 6 principles for accountable and responsive government. Our goal on an annual basis is to ensure that the citywide investments we make support our vision of being a diverse, vibrant city guided by principled progress and intentional inclusivity, where innovative partnerships and ingenuity create opportunity for all. The city's budget development process is also dictated by state statutes and city ordinance, and we have developed a series of internal processes that allow us to meet all the deadlines prescribed by law. Starting back in December, the budget department began the planning phase for the FY24 budget. At this point in the process, we are working in 3 different fiscal years, having just completed FY22, City Council recently adopting the budget for 23, and planning for FY24. In January, we held the City Council's Priorities Committee of the Whole, which is a chance for City Council members to share their priorities with the public and city administration. Next, held in January and February, we have kickoff meetings to start the formal budget development process. At these meetings, the budget department provides information, training, and important budget dates to the departments. Next, departments complete internal reviews of their budgets, and any changes to the budgets are organized into proposals. And once the departments have prioritized their proposals, their official request is communicated to the budget department as the department's budget submission. After budget reviews, the department submissions, line item review meetings are held. Each department meets with the budget and city administration to review and discuss their proposed budgets. During this process, proposals are further prioritized in an effort to ensure that each is aligned with the mayor's pillars for progress. Annually, we hold a budget open house where the public has an opportunity to participate in the budget process by sharing their thoughts and priorities with the city. And this year's budget open house is scheduled earlier in the budget process than in previous years. After the open house and the line item review process is completed, we have the committee of the whole meetings with city council to report on the progress we have made and to solicit input and direction from city council. The CIP workshop is scheduled for this Thursday, and the operating workshop is scheduled for Tuesday, May 2nd. Some other important dates in the budget process include in late June, but no later than July 1st, we will receive the certified values from the property appraiser's office. On or before July 15th, Mayor Welch will submit his balanced budget recommendations to City Council. At the July 20th City Council meeting, we will ask City Council to set a tentative millage rate and the dates of the 2 public hearings. Besides tonight, you will continue to have opportunities to provide input on the budget, including the 2 public hearings in September where public comment is encouraged. The first public budget hearing is currently scheduled for September 14th, followed by the second public hearing on September 28th. At this meeting, City Council will adopt the FY24 budget, which will run from October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024. Some key areas of investments planned for the preliminary FY24 budget are affordable workforce housing, public safety, safe and healthy neighborhoods, sustainability and resiliency, and literacy and STEAM program funding. We are also looking at increasing or maintaining our investments in key strategic initiatives in the FY24 preliminary budget, including at-risk youth programs, year-round youth employment programs, social action funding, arts grants, microfund, storefront conservation, commercial revitalization programs, our economic development corporation, greenhouse, Main Streets, and Grow Smarter programs. We're also including a transfer to the Economic Stability Fund. We're looking at investing in our water and stormwater infrastructure and leisure services facilities maintenance. On the CIP side, there's some key investments in the FY24 preliminary budget, including public safety vehicle replacement for police, fire, rescue, and EMS, assignments for the Fire Station 2 land acquisition and public safety training facilities, both K-9 and fire rescue, sidewalks, street and road improvements, bike and pedestrian safety improvements, neighborhood transportation management program, our recreation centers and library improvements. We're building the replacement of Building A at our fleet facility and various city municipal office building improvements. I'd also like to mention that information about the city's budget is available on the city's website on the budget department page. And thank you again for joining us this evening, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, well, at this time, we will go to our public comment portion. And so if you have not had the opportunity yet and you do want to speak this evening, the clerk has yellow cards up here, and we would appreciate it if you would fill one out. We will then call your name in the order as which they were received. We will go through and we will call people in person and on Zoom. So if you're on Zoom, just raise your hand. We will eventually get to you. We'll do 4 in person, 4 on Zoom. So we'll rotate that back and forth. Everybody gets 3 minutes, just like in regular public comment time. And we just ask at the beginning of your comments that you state your name and your address for the record. Clerk, anything else?
No, ma'am.
That it? All right. Well, let's get started.
Madam Chair, I'm going to call them 2 at a time. Natalie Stockard and Maria Scruggs. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Okay, good evening. My name is Natalie Stockard, and I rise in support of the Community Assistance
Ma'am?
and Life Liaison.
Your address, please.
I live in the Avanti Apartments at 201 4th Street South.
Thank you.
And I'm here to support the Community Assistance and Life Liaison program. I'm not a part of this officially in any capacity. I'm just a citizen who thinks it's an amazing idea. In the first year, as you all probably know, that program has reduced suicides by 17% and served over 3,000 people, including over 5,000 contacts for follow-up to get people the help they actually need. You have the USF Center for Justice and Policy study that gives all the details on how well this is working. And I do have one suggestion. I would like to see the call program leadership begin to ride along with EMTs on nonviolent death calls to see how they could help the people who are still alive and having a pretty shitty day. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maria Scruggs, and I live at 980 Melrose Avenue South, and I'm here to speak in support of the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign in hopes that this body would find it appropriate to include this campaign in its 23-24 budget. We were here in June of 22 doing a very comprehensive presentation on the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign and demonstrating to this body how it aligns with the city's pillars for progress, and that is an education and youth focus, and then the 6 principles for accountability and responsive government in relation to innovation. In 2017, Tampa Bay Times did an article titled $200 Million Later, and Nothing Has Changed in the African American Community. And the reason that article came out, and I was quoted in that, because nothing had changed as it related to the quality of life in the African American community. If in fact we are going to ever get to a place that we see the quality of life change for all people, we have to recognize that there are challenges in this city, and that in those challenges, there has to be something different in how we approach them. The Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign has as its focus Campbell Park, John Hopkins, and Gibbs, and the reading levels for those children in 2022 was 17% were reading on grade level at Campbell Park, 18% were reading on grade level at John Hopkins, and 19% were reading on grade level at Gibbs High School. There is absolutely no way that we can begin to continue to produce outcomes like that and expect that African American children will be prepared to lead and participate in the quality of life in this city in the future. It is our hope that you take another look at that presentation. The majority of the youth serving organizations have partnered with Phyllis Wheatley through formal MOUs, including the City of St. Petersburg Leisure Services, as well as the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm certainly available for any questions that anyone has relating to how the campaign is designed. But again, hope that you will see the benefit in investing long-term in African-American children in St. Petersburg. Thank you.
Madam Chair, next 2 speakers, Kevin Johnson and Reverend Dr. St. Clair Moore. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council.
My name is Kevin Johnson. I live at 2861 4th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33712. I'm here in support of the Phyllis Wheatley Rise Reading campaign. We're partners with the Friends of Johnson Branch Library, and I'm also a board member. The reason we need this program is it's a support system for families, and it can help families negotiate the bureaucratic system, because sometimes it is difficult. Also, it can coordinate services, have a number of partners available. And I know firsthand that reading, I've been involved in the literacy program for over 30 years, and I was a slow reader myself. Like I told the kids the other day, I got a master's degree and I got stuck in the 2nd grade. Now look at me. But it's important for us to support this program because reading is a foundation of learning. It's a foundation of all things. So I encourage council to include the Phyllis Weekly Reading Rise program in the 2024 budget. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
I'm the Reverend Dr. St. Clair Moore. I reside at 3135 First Avenue North, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous out of anger. I just sat and listened to the mayor's proposed budget. I listened to the presentation, and I cannot understand how we can manage such a magnanimous effort. And 80% of African American kids cannot read. And then we speak as if there's inclusivity and if there's diversity, but this is an insult to the children of our community. Because if the kids in these three schools are struggling, that means their parents are struggling. That means the benefits that you're providing, they're not for us. And that hurts at a deep level of a sense of humanity. And I'm asking you to rethink the strategy if we sit at this table in leadership with a compassion for all individuals. Because when we speak of drugs and we speak of gun violence and we speak of crime and we choose not to educate, then that's a duplicitous approach to love, care, and gratitude. So I want us to rethink the budget. I want the mayor to rethink his budget. He put a $500,000 in education, but millions in environment and good issues. But we need to rethink how we're going to invest. So Phyllis Wheatley, I'm the clergy person that has to go to the Black church and to ask them to invest time and energy to help bring our kids from nothing to something. We have scholars that are underprivileged, not because they're not brilliant, it's because there's no investment. If we wait until they are in prison to transform them, that's too late. I'm asking you to transform them from the beginning, from their formative years, to invest in them. Phyllis Wheatley has given us the best strategy thus far, because if only 17% and 18% and 90% are failing, somebody needs to be fired, because that is failure at any level. If this was a bank or a corporation, they will not be in leadership. We are not judging, we are asking to let us help the school, let us bring the churches together, let us bring the community together to help our kids. I say our kids because it is our kids. Regardless of our color, they are our kids, because they may married your white kids. I'm asking you to rethink the strategy. Take some money out of the prison and put it into kids. Take some money out of the buildings and put it into kids. If we miss them now, we cannot recover them later. That's any questions?
Thank you. Go to Zoom now.
Madam Chair, the speaker in Zoom's name is Lama Al-Hassan. Once you enter into the meeting space, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council. Lama?
Hello, my name is Lama Al-Hassan. I live in Coquina Key at 5011 Starfish. I'm part of a group called Dream Defenders, and right now we're working on a campaign called Safe Streets. Safe Streets is a campaign meant to address gun violence, and we know that gun violence is not going to be solved with police and cops. It is solved by addressing the root of the problem. The root of the problem is that it severely impacts poor and working class, specifically Black and Brown communities. And that is along some of the things that people were saying here before, is because they're not being invested in. We see in the budget, it was a mention of 5 pillars. One of the pillars being public safety. Using basic math, we would expect that about 20% would be spent on the different pillars. However, we see about 30% of our budget specifically spent on the police. This goes to show we are not interested in investing in our community. We're interested in keeping people locked up. What we really need is to address things like education, address things like childcare. We have a lot of community members who talk about their kids get into trouble. They don't have access to pools in the summer. They don't have access to childcare. They are struggling because they're working multiple jobs to try to put food on the table. And that's because the city is not investing in people. That's where we need to focus. We need to focus on spending money on children programs and getting access, affordable access to housing and childcare. Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next two speakers in the chamber, I believe this is Nicole Roberts and Walt Driggers. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hello, my name is Nicole Roberts, and I live at 444 30th Avenue North. I'm representing Car Free St. Pete, an organization that's designed to encourage locals to go car free and advocate for the improvement of spaces and ways to do so. First of all, I'd really like to thank the city and this council for your support of pedestrian and bicycle improvements and for your past support of the Sunrunner Bus Rapid Transit, the first BRT here in our community. This has really put us in advancements here in St. Pete to really increase our transportation access. I would also like to request that you guys continue to invest in pedestrian and bicycle improvements and in transit access, particularly when it comes to the Complete Streets Plan, an amazing plan the Transportation Department has already made to address the most important pedestrian bicycle improvements that need to be made. This investment really addresses a few of the pillars that the city has identified in this year's budget round, including environmental resiliency, access to housing for all, and of course, neighborhood safety and communities. So I would just like to, again, ask you all to increase your investment in the implementation of the Complete Streets Plan, and thank you all for your time today.
My name is Walt Driggers. I'm at 1 Beach Drive, Southeast, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33701. Last year, the City Council, as you know, voted unanimously to apply for and accept FAA and DOT grants to maintain our downtown airport. Excuse me. The 2023 budget had $356,000 put in it because a grant was turned down and chose from that budget, and it was chose to be paid for by the citizens. I think what that grant was for was to evaluate the electric vault on the airport, which is a safety issue. The result of that study, and is going to be about $1 million, maybe $1.1 million to do that repair. My question is there that $1 million budget, the price to repair, is that in the 2024 budget as the citizens paying it, or are they going to apply for a grant from the FAA and the DOT? Because I believe if they accept the grants for $1 million, paid 90% by the FAA and 5% by the DOT and 5% by the city, that would free up significant amount of money to take care of these other programs these other people have been speaking to. And I just think it makes perfect sense to do that. So I just need asking if they plan on accepting any more grants. Any questions?
Next two speakers, Madam Chair, Erica Hall, and I believe it's Haley Berg. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Good afternoon, Erica Hall. I reside at 1412 Tyrone Boulevard North, 33710. I'm here as a community resident and a community leader representing one community grocery co-op, and also I'm on the executive committee of the Suncoast Sierra Club. As a community resident and leader, I'd like to applaud our city council and our mayor for the work currently being done around the 3 E's: energy, equity, and the environment. Some of the notes that I made that I would like to see continued investment in is the CBA work group and our work around the CBA, the CRA. our work around hurricane preparedness. I'm on a coalition with USF and ICAR, and we're doing a lot of work around storm planning and prep, and we like to see continued support for that. Our neighborhood associations, I like to see each council member know who their neighborhood association leaders are and support those neighborhood associations, because those associations support the community-based organizations that I work with, and we work on strategy. So we work with those neighborhood associations around the city, and they need our support. I'd also like you all to continue working on the walkability and accessibility that's previously been mentioned. I live in District 1, so I'd like to thank you for allowing me to talk about the vehicular fatalities that I see regularly on Tyrone Boulevard, and it's a serious problem. I like to highlight the importance of investing in the health and community economic development in South St. Pete and other vulnerable communities through cooperative development and a grocery co-op that is based and rooted in South St. Pete, that's going to stay in South St. Pete and serve communities marginalized and affected by the closing of grocery stores in the areas such as St. Pete Youth Farm, One Community Grocery Co-op, Erica Hardison, Carla Bristol. We work closely on a lot of these issues. Again, the youth employment, homelessness is something that's a big problem here. And as the mayor says, supporting affordable and workforce housing, looking at alternatives like exempt tax bonds, housing municipal bonds, and again, mentoring our youth. So I'd like to thank you all for what you've already done and what you continue to do. And please reach out to the community grassroots leaders such as myself for assistance in mobilizing communities in our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Haley Bush. I reside at 1415 29th Avenue North. I'm a member of the Mayor's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and I'm here today as a member of Car Free St. Pete. During my time on the BPAC, I've learned a lot about the city's ongoing bicycle and pedestrian projects, how they are funded, the state and national funding, how it trickles through, how much asphalt and concrete costs, which is quite a bit. And I'm here today in support of capital improvements projects and budget items that strengthen bicycle pedestrian infrastructure, like our Complete Streets program, that provide affordable transportation options that don't require car ownership and make our community more connected and safe for all. So I encourage you to support those items in the budget and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Anyone else in Zoom?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Next speaker in Zoom is Cynthia Lippert. Cynthia, once you enter into the meeting space, please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council. Cynthia?
Good evening, Cynthia Lippert, 8415 17th Street North, St. Petersburg 33702, District 2. Thank you for the public opportunity to speak. I am a member of FAST, Faith, Action, Strength Together, and appreciate the opportunity and to hear about the continuing efforts to address the affordable housing crisis that we're in, and that the City Council and mayors really aggressive attempts to help with that situation. But tonight I'd just like to share about a concern the 30 congregations that are members of FAST that care about the amount of storm water that's not filtered, that pollutes our lakes and our bay, and that as more and more people move here, that probably will not get any better. And one solution we are excited about is rain gardens, and they're typically placed lower in the landscape, slightly sunken depression where developers and homeowners can plant specific water-loving plants. And because they are sunken, the rain gardens capture storm water runoff. Then the plants soak up the water, which helps prevent flooding. We're also filtering the water and decreasing pollution and contamination. Rain gardens effectively remove up to 90% of nutrients and chemicals in storm water runoff. It was wonderful to hear that stormwater resiliency and infrastructure is already in the budget. For example, the city of Winter Haven created 60 rain gardens, which filtered over 220 gallons of stormwater in the last few years. So we see that it can work in a city. So again, thank you for your very competent and dedicated job, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
No more hands up.
Okay.
Next two speakers in the chamber, Madam Chair, Megan Bassnett and Carol McNamee. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hi, guys. I'm Megan Basnett. I live at 2519 First Avenue North. I'm also on your Complete Streets Committee, or the Mayor's Complete Streets Committee. I would like to start by saying I'm here because I love this city. Like, I love it. I want my investment here. I want my 3 daughters to want to stay here. I want to take care of my parents here when that time comes. The only time I've ever spoken publicly was for the adoption of Complete Streets. I felt a little bit naive when I didn't realize that that approval didn't come with a budget. And I felt pretty ignorant. I felt like I was trying to follow up on projects. We would identify like a crosswalk that we knew was supposed to go in. I would ask about like, where is this on the list? And through this long journey since then, I found out that there wasn't a specific allotted budget to meet the projects that were identified. So I want to also say thank you to your transportation department. Your staff has endured me like a little gnat that they cannot zap, and they are so patient. And we do have a great working relationship, but I'm also here with Car Free St. Pete. My focus there is advocating for infrastructure improvements. I truly believe it's the unspoken things about the city, a safety that they can't even identify, an enjoyment sitting outside eating without car exhaust that they don't even know how to recognize, being able to cross the street without hindrance. I do live on First Avenue North, so I see nothing but car accidents, people riding their wheelchairs in the bike lane, the gentleman next to me who crosses a 3-lane highway on a walker, and I have pretty much heart palpitations every time because you know what? People speed around him. They don't care to even slow down for him. I don't think we always make these choices, but sometimes if the infrastructure is there to support it and it's this natural organic thing, the mind frame shifts. And when my husband rides his bike every day to work, he gets honked at, he gets screamed at. This is not like a safe infrastructure that we have so far, but as we continue to improve that, the culture changes. And sometimes we just don't even understand why we love it even more, why we see it even more. And I'm just asking for that consideration to continue to improve because people are liking it. I talk to people every day at the bus stops. They love the city. And I just hope that we can keep seeing and keep reinforcing the necessity of those improvements without having to seek out FDOT, grant programs, Forward Pinellas programs, all these things. I just wish the city would have a little more of a budget focus on it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening. My name is Carol McNamee, and I'm a board member of the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign. I live in Safety Harbor, but this is where my work is, and that's why I'm speaking about it. I've been involved in education for 30 years, having directed a program that was meant to help children improve their education. And I can tell you that I really appreciate the fact that we're all standing here asking you to focus on our program. And each one of these are very important, and I hear it. But 30 years ago, some of you may know Judge George Greer. He's now retired. And he said to me at that time, Carol, if you can do anything about getting kids to be able to read by 3rd grade, they won't be standing in front of me. He was a juvenile judge. And I know that's true. I've seen it. I've know people who were as adults tell me about what happened when they were younger. This is a different way of approaching. Our campaign is a different way of approaching this. I've also served on an advisory board in the school system. Over and over and over, They say, we need to have community involvement. We need to get the parents involved. And time after time, money is spent to do that. And as you know, that's rare for all kinds of good reasons. I am not saying that isn't a good reason. This program is designed so that we can support the parents in the community to help their children to learn to read. We are not personally, I'm not going to be teaching someone to read. Maria's not going to be. But the people who do know how to do that and are already doing that, our job is to pull them together, help support them to do that, help the parents understand where help is available to them. And we've all been working with no income, obviously. But if we want to have some people who are professionals to work with the families and the children, we do need a budget. And so I sincerely ask you to allocate some of the money to the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign. Thank you very much.
Next two speakers, Madam Chair, Brad Hunsinger and Jack Wallace. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council.
All right. First name you said goes first? That's me, Brad Hunsinger. Cool. Hi, I was hoping to have a little more time to get my remarks together, but they're as together as they're going to be. Thank you for accepting public comment.
State your address for the record.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry. My address is 2341 17th Avenue Southwest, Largo, Florida, 3374.
And sir, do you have a business with the city?
No, but yeah, I'm here with the St. Pete Tenants Union.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That works. Thank you.
So that's an interesting segue. Sharp-eared observers will note that I said Largo and not St. Pete, but I consider St. Pete to be my home. I was born here at Bayfront in 1985. I lived here until 2012. When my partner and I moved to Miami, we came back in 2018 and we were priced right the hell out. We could not afford any place decent to live. We have professional jobs, we have college degrees, we have 2 incomes, we have no kids. And if we can't do it, I wonder how anyone can live in the city. Used to be when I came off of 375, I'd see maybe 1 or 2 luxury high rises. Now there are about 1 million of them, and there are more of them going up every day. Rents have increased about 30% over the last 3 years, according to the St. Pete Catalyst. And I see a lot of hand-wringing about homeless people and wondering why there are so many homeless people and what can we do to sweep the homeless people out of the public eye. I work with a lot of homeless people. I work with a lot of people who come off the streets, and I gratefully submit to you all that it probably has something to do with them not being able to afford homes. People do not go unsheltered because it's cool and fun. They go unsheltered because they can't afford to be sheltered. So some of the things the St. Pete Tenants Union would like to see include the right to counsel for evictions with zero means testing, city-owned and operated public housing that will be permanently affordable to people who need it, and something else. City investment in residential property that does not run through private concerns. Oh boy, watching the clock. So in sum, this city is unaffordable to live in, and it would be really cool if some more stuff were done to make it affordable to live in. I appreciate everything you've done on that count so far, and I look forward to you all adopting some of our specific policy platforms. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jack Wallace. I reside at 345 Fifth Avenue North, St. Petersburg. I'm an organizer with the St. Petersburg Tenants Union as well as the Party for Socialism and Liberation. The proposed budget and the one that we saw last year and the one that we've been seeing for years and years and years now show that the priorities of the city and the priorities of the mayor's office is funding the police and not the people. The majority, or not necessarily the majority, the plurality of the budget going to the police department is showing that the city is prioritizing locking people up, criminalizing people, criminalizing the homeless, as we've been hearing about, of course, today, and criminalizing, the most vulnerable people in our society. Oftentimes that means in the south side of St. Petersburg. The city council, the mayor's office should be funding things that actually support the well-being of the people of St. Petersburg, like public housing. That's for one thing, something that could be permanently affordable forever. We can cut out these profiteering middlemen that the city continues to incentivize, give handouts to through these 15 and 30-year sort of covenants. The city should be building its own housing. That's something that they can do. There's public housing in St. Petersburg, and it runs pretty well. And it means that people won't be evicted, or hopefully won't be evicted. And it means that it can be affordable in perpetuity. We don't have to, the city doesn't have to make profits. The city can just be responsible for housing people, which is really what the people of St. Petersburg need. We need the right to counsel in the meantime as well, to protect us from these dirty developers and landlords that want to profit off of our people here in St. Petersburg, who oftentimes can't make enough money to live here. Like the previous speaker said, they had to move to Largo. They make a good wage, but they still can't afford to live here. The housing crisis hasn't gone away, even though the city council pretends to think that it has. The historic gas plant district and the Tropicana field redevelopment. I mean, the current plan is disgusting, frankly, in terms of the public monies that are going to be put forward in order to, build maybe another a stadium, to not build public housing in these different places, right? Basically, another giveaway to developers, the same thing that happened before when the first Tropicana field was developed back in the 90s. We don't want to make the same mistake again, and I'm sure the people of St. Petersburg won't forget again. The city needs to be investing in housing. The city needs to be investing in the bus and the transit system, as we've been hearing from the car-free St. Pete people. It should be free, right? It should be expanded. What else is the city good for other than providing the essential needs of the people? Certainly not to be incarcerating, not to be criminalizing, and not to be murdering, frankly, the people of St. Petersburg with the massive police budget that we have right now. Thank you.
Do we have anyone in Zoom?
No more in Zoom.
No more in Zoom, okay.
Actually, we have two in Zoom.
Okay.
Dr. Christy Faust, once you enter into the meeting space, please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council. Dr. Frost?
Am I in?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, Dr. Christy Faust. I live at she, her pronouns. I live at 753 29th Avenue South in St. Pete. And I'm here to request an enormous budget priority towards sustainable and affordable housing. Developments, when I read about them in the news and through different media sources, they never seem to have enough units to accommodate the 50% of St. Pete residents who are overburdened with housing costs. So building's expensive. The companies who facilitate the building of the buildings, they deserve to make a living wage for the expertise, service, and labor of their workers, provide for sure. And of course, the materials cost money as well. But with those things there, what's the solution for the 50% of St. Pete residents that are overburdened by housing costs? And I want to ask that the city own the ambitious and necessary task of building affordable housing the way City Hall was built, the way the pier was built, the marina, and our storm and wastewater infrastructure as part of this answer. There are ways to prioritize housing for all in St. Pete, and it will take looking outside of the so-called normal way. We have models for this. Please make it a huge priority to build publicly owned social housing to provide housing that can remain truly affordable to St. Pete residents forever. Thank you.
Next speaker in Zoom, Madam Chair, is May Talk. May, once you enter into the meeting space, excuse me, please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council. May?
Yes, hello.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, May Thatch, 4566 35th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33713. I'm a resident here in St. Petersburg, representing myself, and I want to discourage the funds for additional police officers to have home vehicles. this is unnecessary. More of these vehicles on the road does not actually equate to safety, actually creates more anxiety for the people on the road. And having worked with the homeless folks in the area in St. Petersburg, vehicles like these just parked outside parks where no one's doing anything wrong creates a tension that is unnecessary and harmful to the people around them. So I definitely would discourage you all from funding more towards the police and such a high budget that they already have. Instead, to support funds for complete streets and any kind of pedestrian and bicycle initiatives in this budget. And of course, like everyone mentioned before, to support funding for affordable housing. And lastly, to have more accessible and frequent bus routes for our residents and our workers in the city. A lot of the time when folks aren't using the public transportation is because it takes them maybe 2 or 3 times as long to use public transportation to go where they need to go versus calling a Lyft or an Uber. And that's unacceptable when our taxpayer monies is already going through funds for public transport. It should work for the people that live here and work here. And lastly, thank you so much for all of you that have been doing the work and fighting for a more equitable and safe St. Petersburg. And I hope you all take that into account when you're discussing your budget this year.
Next two speakers, Madam Chair, James Lamont and Janie Kuroki. I believe that's how you say the last name. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hi, I'm James Lamont. I live at 650 56th Street North, St. Pete, 33710. I'm here in support of the St. Pete Tenants Union. I'm speaking on the cost of living housing crisis we have. Just a personal story, I recently had to re-sign my lease where my rent had gone up 17%. When I asked the landlord if there was any reason they could give me for that, they said the market, which seems to me to be another way to just say opportunism. I did work for a number of years in alternative economics NGOs. So I'd like to speak on one funding alternative in particular that the tenants union suggests, which is a universal basic income, beginning with a pilot program. It could be funded with a relatively small amount of the funding that is earmarked for police. If local governments, because of what's happening at state level or whatever, are unwilling or unable to help with rent increases, the housing crisis, maybe they could at least help us to pay for it on the back end. Universal basic income pilots have been tried out across the country and across the world, and almost without exception, they've been shown to reduce stress, reduce houselessness, reduce food insecurity. They provide a bulwark against terrible predatory employers who know people are desperate. They're also important for climate sustainability. So again, maybe there's only so much we can do about the root causes, but at least we can know if a hurricane is coming, everyone can afford to evacuate or make plans to secure themselves in ways that isn't always the case here. I believe that's everything I have to say, and I just think the budget can be utilized better to help people than it has been in the past.
Hello, my name is Janie Karaoke, and I live at 236 10th Avenue Northeast, St. Petersburg, 33701. So my stepdad would say a few quotes, and one is you need to find the RCA, the root cause analysis. We know the root of our problems. Our education is underfunded. Our housing is underfunded. So when you're asking us for solutions to these problems, we have the solutions. The community members are in this room with the answers. When they're asking if you have any questions, you should have dozens of questions on paper because you have failed our community year after year after year. Another thing he would say, doing the same thing the same way, expecting different results is a classic version of insanity. Is our city council insane? We've been having the same budget year after year. How do we not have a different budget? $500,000 for our school system? That's a joke. It's a joke. We're doing the same thing the same way, expecting different results. You're not doing great work, quite frankly. 4,000 homeless children in our county. Our schools are underfunded. People are telling you children can't read. And we're sitting here asking questions. Change the budget. That's the solution. If you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And right now, the city council and the mayor's the problem. Yes, it's great we have a black mayor, but what is that doing for us when you're not helping the black community? That's what I want to know, honestly. And everything we're doing doesn't even make any sense. When we're talking about area median incomes, area median for who? The millionaires living in this county? Black people can't afford the medians that you're coming up with. That doesn't make any sense. It needs to be public housing. Stop talking about affordable housing when it's based on the area median income and you have developers buying out our city. How can we afford the city that developers are buying out? That's what I want to know. Put money into the schools, put money into education, put money into housing, then you will see a difference. And that's what we're here asking for, is a difference. And another thing is, I'd appreciate if we stop using terms people can't understand. That's one of the main problems. We're using terms that don't make any sense. We need public housing, not affordable housing. We need to fund our education. Write some questions down, ask your community. You have an affordable housing committee with all developers on it. Why aren't community members on that board? It should be all community members, not developers who are buying out our city that don't have the interest of the community. Think about that, because you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem, and we need to get to the root cause analysis, and that is what we need to figure out.
Thank you.
Next
two speakers, Madam Chair, William Kilgore, and I'm not sure if it's Savan Peacock or Saran Peacock. I can't tell if that's a V or an R. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hi, everybody. My name is William Kilgore. I reside in the Ponce de Leon neighborhood, and I'm with the St. Petersburg Tenants Union. Just like to say, I was looking at this pen. Thanks for the pen, Mayor Welch, too. This is nice. It writes really good. And I was thinking, it's something the city's given us here. What if the city could provide food or housing? Like we do sanitation service, other services we have. I think that's kind of what we're talking about. Looking at some of these services provided through the public sector. I heard some folks mentioning food earlier. I just wanted to start off with that. In the food deserts, we see in Midtown St. Pete and where Tangerine Plaza is. What they did in, I believe it's Baldwin, Florida. The city opened up a grocery store, and it's city owned and managed, and that's what they did because they couldn't get investment and a private company to move in, because these profiteers don't really care about feeding people. They don't care about anything, and that's where the public sector, I think, has a responsibility to come in and take action. Same thing when we're looking at housing, and we're looking at this patchwork of the way housing is done, and we have to do it all through the private sector. Well, you look at the Jamestown apartments. We already have a public housing enterprise, and that's city owned and managed. Expand on that. Plenty of apartment complexes. I remember the one at Citrus Grove. It's changed hands from all these private companies over and over and over. And it's just the conditions have never gotten better. And I know the city was investing money pretty much to do all the repairs, but it's still owned by this, company out in California. They don't have the best interests of people at heart. They don't, and the public sector does. And that's when we can come to the public sector, we can hold them accountable. That's the whole thing, and it can work, for us. So, that's an important thing. I just want to mention again, too, with the police budget, $133 million last year. Call, it was a $8.9 million increase. Call got $136,000. I heard somebody talking about Call today. Yeah, get Call more money. We need to give Call a lot more money. They're doing incredible work, and start redirecting, the police into something else. And we need to get Call out of the police department. It needs to be separate, and you need to expand the purview of what they do, because that's a great thing and it's shown results. So thanks for listening, and I look forward to seeing the full budget and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, thanks.
Is it Savan or Sharon Peacock?
Yes. Sarah.
That's all right. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sarah Peacock. I live at 5155 10th Avenue North. It's a hard crowd to follow. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said so far. In general, I'm here to discourage investment in a new Rays stadium. We should be supporting our residents, not businesses and real estate developers. I do understand businesses provide jobs, but how many of those people employed can afford to live near their jobs? How many people have to sit in the sun and the rain at bus stops with no cover and wait for the buses to go to a job an hour ride from their home? They have to find childcare for those hours lost each day. They lose the opportunity to be getting an education in those hours, to be cooking food with their families. We want to support our community. Public transportation, in addition to affordable housing and public housing, are the ways to do that. In general, tourism will provide a dwindling source of income, I believe, to this city, in the long run at least. Political and environmental disasters beyond our control have and will continue to impact people's willingness to come to Florida in general. We need to be taking care of our residents before we build a city for tourists. We are here now. We need safe roads, schools, waterways, and homes now. Specifically, I'd like to talk about schools. The universal voucher legislation that has passed means that the 20,000 private school students in the county will be eligible for an $8,000 voucher each. There's no reason to think they won't take it. There's no income cap on it. That's $160 million coming out of the county budget for schools. I don't know how much of that is in our city, but it's safe to assume that a lot of our city's students will be leaving public schools for private and charter as well, which will require more funds to leave our public school system. I'd like us to consider now that that is coming. It's an inevitability that we need to be planning for in the next year. It will be happening next school year. That money is leaving us. We need to have something in our budget for that. I'd also like to highlight affordable housing again. Providing counsel for renters in the eviction process and the landlord database seem like common sense steps towards equity. But while we don't have housing, I think immediate needs should be addressed immediately. Water stations, safe places to sleep, and maintain basic hygiene are literally the least that we could provide for our friends and neighbors without homes. And lastly, I'd like to reiterate the sense from others that police are not the answer. While the police force and the retirement funds that take up 50% of our budget, they do not seem to provide a proportionate benefit. In my personal experience, they've done a mediocre job of recording crimes and no work whatsoever to solve them. They certainly don't prevent any crimes. I had a little bit of fun digging into the police department, and I'm curious, is the homeless donation fund still going to the police department? And since 2020, the Park Walk and Talk program has been cut in half. Who decided to cut that program, and has any replaced it in an effort to improve police relations with the department that takes up half of our money?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
We have a speaker in Zoom, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Gary Gridzinkas. Gary, once you enter into the meeting space, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address City Council. Gary?
Hi, yeah, this is Gary Grodzinskis. I'm at 4339 Shore Acres Boulevard, Northeast, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33703. I'm here for the Council of Neighborhood Associations. And first off, I'd like to say thank you for everybody who spoke tonight. That leadership of helping you hear what the city wants, I think is important. And what I would like to encourage you to look at is anything that has to do with taking local leadership and raising that up through the neighborhood associations. And we can do that a lot of different ways. So when you are considering this budget, don't forget the neighborhoods and don't forget about a lot of us discovering our own identity outside of the city as large. And I appreciate your time.
Next two speakers in the chamber, Madam Chair, Jamaica Williams and Carla Correa. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hello, council members. My name is Jamaica Williams, and I reside at 2345 16th Avenue South. I'm here on behalf of Faith in Florida, a nonprofit demonstrating our love for Jesus and our community out loud. Specifically, I'm here to say that we do not want our taxpayer dollars going towards a new baseball stadium, and instead we want to see affordable housing and economic development happen in our city, with priority going towards our at-risk communities. That would include our Black and Brown population, as well as low income. When the gas plant district, a historically Black neighborhood, was acquired decades ago, there was a promise that there would be economic development and opportunity provided in that area, and we have yet to see that come to fruition. I'm asking you all to keep that land city-owned and to be utilized to provide permanent, affordable housing and economic opportunity in that area. Thank you.
Hi, Carla Correa, 345 Fifth Avenue North. I'm here with the Party for Socialism and Liberation and the St. Petersburg Tenants Union. I'm here first and foremost to demand no increases in the police budget, and I'm here to demand not housing opportunities for all, and I think that language is interesting, but housing for all, period, because housing is a human right. And we, as a city, as a society, we need to take the task of ending homelessness very seriously. And if we're going to take it seriously, that means we shouldn't keep putting money into these public-private partnerships that people have already mentioned only have to stay affordable for 15 or 30 years. We need permanently affordable public housing with rents set based on the individual's income. And this is even more relevant as HB 1417 is looking like it's going to pass through the Florida legislature, which, for those who don't know, will take away our city's Tenants Bill of Rights, our county's Tenants Bill of Rights, and all of the tenant protections that we have fought for here in St. Pete and at the county level. And if tenants don't have protections in the private sector, this is a justification for a massive expansion of public housing, because we need public accountability, not landlords being able to do whatever they want. Slumlords shouldn't be able to operate in our city. The city can buy up these properties. For those who don't know, they can use eminent domain to get these properties, to get these vacant properties. There are tens of thousands of vacant properties here in the city of St. Pete that people could be living in. The city can actually end homelessness. And we also need more funds for guaranteed rehousing for tenants whose buildings fall apart from landlord negligence. Miami-Dade County passed an ordinance around this after the tragic Surfside building collapse in 2021. And here in St. Pete, after local teacher Wendy Castro's building collapsed, Terrier Properties left her in the dust. We also need a massive expansion in funds for tenants who are facing eviction. And I agree with the people who are saying no money for the baseball stadium. We need an expansion of the Office of Tenant Advocacy. We need an expansion of the CAL program. We need money for the Tampa Bay Abortion Fund. Stand up to Governor DeSantis. Don't capitulate about that. Don't sell the women of St. Pete out. And Janie, just what something Janie said earlier is correct, is that I mean, everything she said was correct, but particularly is that the workers in this room, we do have the answer. We do know what's best for us, which is why we need to fight for a new economic system that actually puts working people in power and organizes the economy and the society around the needs of the people. And that system is called socialism. If you're interested in learning more, visit pslweb.org.
Next two speakers, Madam Chair, Christine McCann and Max McCann. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hello, my name is Christine McCann, and this is Sloan, and we live at 2648 3rd Avenue South. We are here to advocate for complete streets with Car-Free St. Pete, and we just would like to request money to support complete streets. We bicycle every day to school. I work in the school system, and we bike everywhere. Right? We go to school. We do our food shopping. We moved specifically to St. Pete for the bicycling infrastructure, and while it's a great start, there's a lot of pieces that are missing, and I would like, my hope is for my daughter and all the young people who can't advocate for themselves, and even older people, people who can't drive, that we have crosswalks so it's safe, bike lanes so that you feel safe next to all those fast cars, and what else? What do you want to say? You can only have one car. She thinks everybody should only have one car. We have one car so we can go to grandma's house. But yeah, we specifically had to make it a priority to move to a certain area so that we could be able to go car free. And I know that that is not an option for a lot of people. And especially when we're on the south side at school, you know, there's not enough room on the sidewalk for all the bicyclists. So we just want to advocate for complete streets for everyone in the city. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Max McCann, 2648 3rd Avenue South. I'm also encouraging the Council to fully fund complete streets. In the next less than 3 minutes, I'm going to try to convince you this is different from a traditional budget item. This is an investment that's going to pay dividends for our city. First, in order to understand that, we have to look at the costs of the status quo. One person dies every 10 days from traffic violence in St. Pete on average. Traffic violence is the #2 cause of death for children in America. This is unacceptable. We have to do better. I know that if I understand right, the current proposed budget has about $600,000 for complete streets. That's an increase from last year, which is great. But let's be realistic, that's like a crosswalk and a half, really. So one important thing to understand about bike infrastructure is it's the kind of thing that you can't do halfway. You gotta have a network, you gotta have a connected network. If you have a couple of random bike lanes, you might as well not have any bike lanes. We did a great job on MLK with the traffic calming measures and protected bike lanes, and they go to nowhere, they dead end. We're about 4 blocks away from the Pinellas Trail, and it doesn't connect. It dumps you into a stretch of 9th Avenue that's like 5 lanes of car traffic. Plenty of space to connect those bike lanes down to the Pinellas Trail. That would be a great network improvement. 5th Avenue South and 28th Street also ripe for traffic calming measures there. We have excess car traffic. I understand it's already in the Complete Streets master plan. We just have to fund it. And contrary to what you might hear from some people, this would improve traffic. Like my wife said, we get around with just one car, and that's how you improve traffic. You give people other ways to get around so that they can go car light or car free. Quick note as a financial interest, average cost of car ownership is $10,000 a year. So that's $10,000 that we save every year by just having one car that we can pump into the local economy. Every person we enable to get around in this city, either car light or car free, that's more money that's freed up for the local economy. I heard in an interview with the mayor, I heard he said he grew up around St. Pete, biking around the city, and that's the kind of future that I want for my daughter. I want her to have the kind of autonomy and independence to be able to travel by herself. without having to get shuttled around like an invalid in a car, like people have to do in so many other cities. St. Pete is loads better than many other cities. We really are. I've lived in Memphis, Peoria, Chicago, Boston, Arlington, Tallahassee, and now here. We're doing a great job. Let's keep it up. We're so close to having a really great network. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Madam Chair, next two speakers, Ernisa Barnwell and Consuela Mackey. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hello, Councilman. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Consuela Mackey. I am the owner and operator of Tabitha's Exquisite Touch, located at 1614 Central Avenue. I am a business owner for over 23 years, and I've been a taxpayer the whole time. And I am here to speak on the allocations of the funds for the Phillies Weekly Rise, Miss Maria Scruggs. This is a little bit different from me than everybody else. I'm speaking personal from experience. I'm not a native of St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. My mother came here back in '85 with 5 kids. And during that time, it was very unfortunate for the things that my mom had to deal with and go through raising 5 kids on her own. All of my mom's kids, other than myself, end up dropping out from school. None of them graduated. I'm the only one graduated with a high school diploma and furthered my education because I fought for myself. I didn't have nobody to allocate for me. The problem that I had most was that the system designed to put in place pushing kids to the side and putting them in situations that's not here to help them, but to hurt them. If not only can you read, but to be able to understand what you're reading and to comprehend, put you in a better place. So if you can't fight for yourself, who fights for you? A program like this, not only would it help to help people further their education, but also further their future, but not just their future, the children that comes behind them and the kids that come behind them. I'm standing here asking you guys, please put in place the funds that can allocate the help and support for people who are doing stuff with their free time and their own money that's not going to go further if we do not put a position in place that's going to help change our society and our children. Our youth is going to be our future. They're going to be people that's sitting up here one day. They can't sit up here if they can't read and write.
Thank you.
Ernisa Barnwell, 76 4th Street North, Unit 1554, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33731. I would like to speak to you, and I'm representing Barter Hair Braiding College and Museum, as well as Hair Braiding Starlets, which is a program for girls 9 to 17. It is a STEAM program, and we are here in support of the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign. Literacy is a component of the Hair Braiding Starlets program, which is an enrichment program and a STEAM program. We have contracted this program with the city of St. Petersburg 2009 through maybe like 14 through the Parks and Recreations division of the city of St. Petersburg. We are looking, the dynamics in St. Petersburg have changed tremendously. So we are requesting an allocation for scholarships for hair braiding starlets and the literacy aspect of hair braiding starlets that is currently scholarship through the Florida Department of Education. We are also looking at the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read program receiving the allocations that they need for the infrastructure that is needed for these students and families to be able to have what they need for their children to be able to read. We teach digital literacy with hair braiding starlets. We also have civic engagement. And one of our starlets actually was able to come in that has already graduated and is a part of our society and was able to speak with the council coordinator, which was probably like 2 weeks ago. So she got a little tour of what it is that you guys do. I would love to bring them in so they can do more with you and get engaged a little more so they can understand civic engagement, which is something that is not really taught in schools as well. Digital literacy is very, very hard to teach when reading is not a skill set that these young children have. And so therefore, what the literacy aspect is going to do is open them up to a world that is now the playing field. It's not local, it is literally global. So things that you're able to do and navigate on the internet that are simple things or business things cannot be navigated if they cannot read. This is an asset to the community. It's an asset to businesses that are coming to this area for our students to be able to read. So I ask for these allocations with that consideration. Thank you so much.
Final speaker, Madam Chair, James Scott. Please go to either podium. State your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Good evening, Chair, Council, Mayor Welch. Thank you for this hearing tonight. My name is James Scott. I live at 5318 6th Street South. I'm going to juggle a couple hats tonight as a resident, as well as the leader of Sierra Club Florida and a small business owner. I want to hit on 3 topics. First and foremost, my environmental hat. The Office of Sustainability and Resilience is a key function in city government, and I would encourage y'all to remain focused on our goals that we've set, specifically in the Integrated Sustainability Action Plan, our targets to reduce our climate emissions and to support renewable energy and energy conservation. We have some major goals, and I think we need to be very clear when we're spending funding around these issues that we're sticking to what are we measuring. So please remember that we have clear, ambitious goals. And I would argue that we're probably not being as ambitious and urgent as we've set forth previously when we adopted those goals. So reminder, please support that. And I will say Sharon Wright did an amazing job the last several years. And we are a leader in the state as an environmental city. And let's not lose that momentum, please. Secondly, wearing my hat as a resident, I live in South St. Pete in District 6, Bayou Highlands. The uneven economic growth in our city becomes more evident every day. The south end of the district that I live in versus the north end of the district that I live in tells a story of 2 Americas, of 2 cities, and we have to do more. Our sense of urgency and our ambition, we are a leader, the city of St. Pete in the state of Florida. And so the money that we spend, the programs that we create, the innovation, we have to do way, way, way more. The community that I live in is struggling. And when I come down here downtown, it's a whole different world. I hope you all see that. And I hope that you get ambitious with what we do. The problem is growing. We're not solving the problem. I don't know what the answer is, but we have to do something more. The last thing I'll hit on, and like last couple of times that I came before council, sustainability and resilience. We have Hurricane Ian could have hit us. We would be a totally different city right now. We cannot pretend that the city is one day not going to have our own Andrew, our own Katrina, our own Ian. We're still doing kind of business as usual. Seawalls and pumps and pipes only get us so far. One day we're going to get knocked in the teeth by a hurricane, and I would urge us all to think way more urgently about what it's going to take in terms of our land use patterns, the fortification of infrastructure, and we need to get people out of the most dangerous parts of our city. There are parts of our city that are going to be clobbered, and it'll be a historic stain on our conscience that we did not do more in advance. That said, it's still the best city in the state to live in. I appreciate you all for what you do. Keep it up. We support sustainability and resiliency. Thank you.
Clerk, I think I saw one more card being filled out. Yeah. Okay, and this will be our final speaker.
Regina Parks. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address council.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Regina Parks. I live at 880 South Village Drive North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33716. And I'm here on behalf of the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign. Not knowing how much of an issue literacy was until I got involved in the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign. I am now definitely understanding that what the design is in this campaign is nothing that I have seen since being a part of the campaign. We are not a program. We partner with programs in the community, churches in the community, to provide that village mentality, to connect with the scholars and get them on reading level as best as we can. To reiterate some of the numbers at Campbell Park Elementary, Spring of 2022, 19% of African American children were reading on grade level. John Hopkins Middle School, 17% of African American children were reading on grade level. And at Gibbs High School, 19%. And if we're going to make a difference, there's no one organization that can do it by itself. And the design, again, of the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign is to collaborate with existing organizations to make the difference. And $500,000 is not enough in the budget. So I'm asking that the fiscal year 23-24 budget be reallocated to increase the literacy budget line and incorporate Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign in there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, that will conclude our public comment section. Thank you all for being here this evening. And at this point in time, I want to open it up for city council comments. If anyone has anything. Well, as I said in the very beginning, this really is a listening session for all of us. So that's why not a lot of back and forth, not a lot of questions being asked, because we wanted to hear from all of you. I will tell you that City Council is very accessible. We are very easy to reach. You can email us, you can call here at City Hall, and that would be your time throughout the next couple of months as we continue to create the budget to be able to engage with us one-on-one. And we definitely encourage that. All of us are very easy to be able to sit down with, have a conversation, and we want to hear your concerns. So we thank you all for coming this evening. And with that, I would like to ask if Mayor Welch has any final comments or if administration would like to say anything.
That's a few, Madam Chair. Thank you. I do want to thank everyone for coming out and for all your comments tonight. I know I have some Apple haters out there, so they enjoy that I lost all my Apple notes. So
I'm
jotting things down. But I do want to hit on the $500,000 because I'm excited about that $500,000 because it is exactly for the kind of programs we talked about tonight. We are not the school system. We're not the school board. They primarily fund our K through 12 in Pinellas County. And so what we sought out to do is say, where can the city fill the gaps? And we talked to folks who are in the public school system. We have an advisory committee of folks who told us, well, here's what you can do. You can do pre-K. You can help those programs that are already on the ground, like the Barbershop Book Club. So that's why that $500,000 is there. And Phyllis Wheatley is one of the programs that we're targeting. Part of what we want to understand is where that would fit in and how that model would work. And so it's a starting point in my view, but folks in the audience need to understand we are not the primary funder for the school system. So I'm proud that we added $500,000 to what we're already doing for youth. And we do have other ways to fund that, perhaps through the CRA and other means. We're already helping early childhood centers with CRA funds. So we're doing a lot of things that folks might not be aware of. As far as the other comments, a lot of things I agree with, a lot of things I don't. Tenants Council is something we're working with Councilmember Floyd on, and when that is ready and comes forward, I will be supporting that. And he's moved me away from the means testing. I think he has solid rationale for that. And I think Ms. Parks hit it on line. This is not a problem that any one entity can solve. And so we're looking for partnerships where we can fit in, particularly on the issue of education. And I'll finally, and William, you're welcome for the pencil, by the way. But the Tenants Council, again, is something I agree with. As you probably know, something I don't agree with is saying that we're going to balance this budget or do something impactful on the backs of the police department, because they do a job, and I've been able to see that as mayor, that we can all be proud of. And so the police budget is a non-starter for me as mayor. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, and please stay tuned for more developments on our budget as the year progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.